going to talk about interaction between species. There is depredation, that's basically one organism will be eating the other one, and this can happen between two or more organisms. Then it's going to be the mutualism, where both organisms will get a benefit. Then there is the competition, where basically it's kind of like a race to get the natural resources from an area. And lastly, there is parasitism, where one organism will be damaged and the other one will have a benefit from the other organism. Then it's going to be sustainability. What is sustainability? Basically, it's the ability of an organism to be able to subsist by itself. And then the replacement rate is basically how fast we can, how much we consume and how fast we can replace it. And then the replacement rate is consumption, overproduction, and lastly, what are the three E's? Are economy, equity, and environmental. Environmental means, well, the space where we live. Economy is basically how profitable it is, and equity means that everything is the same. Then natural resources, the renewable and non-renewable resources. Renewable resources are those that can, the replacement rate is faster because they're easily produced or don't take much to replace. The non-renewable resources are those that either cannot be replaced or take longer period of time to be replaced. Then there's the ecological footprint, that it's the measure of how much we as human beings consume, and it's measured by consumption. No, it's measured by, as I was saying, it was the measure of how much resources we need for a life, and it's basically consumption over productivity. And then the water resources, when we talk the water budget, basically it's the amount of water we need in order to create a pair of jeans, to create even your own food. Basically everything that we use, it needs an amount of water to be produced, and that's the water budget, how much it costs in terms of water to produce something. There's eutrophication, that's basically when there's an excess of nutrients on the water. In this case are going to be nitrogen and phosphate. These nutrients, these chemical components are taken from fertilizers and detergents, these which end up in this non-clean water, in this dirty water that's sent to the oceans and other bodies of water. There, these nitrogen and phosphate are going to start something that's called algae bloom, which basically is that algae are going to start to reproduce more. This causes that the sunlight cannot pass through the water, and later on this basically makes that organisms that need sunlight are going to start dying, and also bacteria are going to start killing the other organisms that were able to subsist without the sunlight. Lastly, this creates oxygen predation, and everything that was on the body of water will be killed. Then it's going to be basically those are the consequences. Then the water scarcity is it's basically the lack of water, and the water usage, the percentages are going to be that in Mexico 76% of the water is used for agriculture, then 5% is going to be used by installation, 5% for energy, and lastly 40% for common use. Lastly, we're going to have garbage patches, that basically are these big chunks of plastic that are floating on the ocean. These are not like a compound or only one section of plastic. They are very small pieces of plastic that float together and go together everywhere. What can we do? Basically, we can start by stop consuming plastic, like non-reusable water bottles, plastic bottles that we use, replaced by reusable water bottles. And lastly, the soil system. Soil is basically the solid space of Earth where we're living. The solid space of Earth where living processes happen or occur, then the composition basically is going to be of minerals, microorganisms, organic matter, it's going to be animals or plants, and lastly the soil formation. First we're going to have something that's weathering the rocks, basically this process where the rocks are going to break down into other pieces by weather conditions. Then we're going to introduce microorganisms like the leech and other bacteria, which are going to end up decomposing the rocks. And lastly, we can start by introducing plants or animals.